Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 15th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see the trough digging out south of the Aleutians here, helping to amplify the ridging across Pacific Northwest, which should stay strong here for the next couple of days. Going to cool down a little bit here as the ridge pushes to the east a bit, and then we have the talk of that pattern change coming up through the extended, and it does look like that confidence is increasing in the pattern change here. It is now out of fantasy land, and it looks like a pretty solid forecast. We are going to switch things up as we go through later this week. We'll look at the details here in a moment. Checking out all the forest fire smoke coming into the Puget Sound, southwest BC, all the way out to the coastlines here. You can see the Cedar Creek fire still pumping smoke out. Goat Rocks fire, I think that's the Nakia fire down there. You'll see that stratus tongue kind of moving up there on the Oregon coast. If you see those low clouds moving up there, you'll know why that stratus tongue there. But it looks pretty nice here, smoke and cloud wise in eastern Washington, Oregon. Nice, beautiful, crisp day out there. Not dealing with this forest fire smoke that's going on, keeping a lot of this air quality unhealthy through the Puget Sound and some of the Willamette Valley. Now, taking a look here, SeaTac 73, we're probably going to get close to this record high today, set back in 1991 of 77. And tomorrow's looks like it's in big jeopardy here, 72. We're probably going to get towards 80 degrees here for Sunday tomorrow. And that would be the potential, that would be the latest 80-degree day ever recorded at SeaTac. Now you can see here, Portland, 82 degrees. Look at that. It's going to be the third straight day with the daily record high tide. Potential to break that some of the next few days as well. So we're probably going to have, this is probably going to be the top record-setting month here easily for October for Portland. I mean, they've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're probably going to add at least a couple more to that as well. Now, this is looking at my house. You can see the air quality here. It looks like the 13th at evening, the air quality started to get pretty bad. Once it gets over 150, it's considered unhealthy, and it hung out right around there for a while. Got better yesterday for a while, but by yesterday evening, it started getting worse. And then over midnight, you could see how it kind of went unhealthy. And this morning, it was pretty darn nasty out there, 191, as you can see. Now we're kind of hovering right around the unhealthy borderline there at 145 currently. So we're just under the unhealthy threshold, but it is kind of nasty out there. And you can see that reflected here in the HER 3KM 12Z or 18Z. You can kind of see that smoke just not going anywhere. And it's going to be around for the next few days as well. We're not going to get much in the way of when to clear this out. But when it does come, probably Thursday night, Friday night, this pattern change, then we will start to clear out some of this smoke out of the region here and hopefully start to squelch some of these fires here across the Cascades. Taking a look here, European on the left, GFS on the right. These are 12Z runs. You can see the big ridging over the Pacific Northwest. And now let's put this into motion and compare what we've got here. You'll see the ridge slide off to the east a little bit this week. It's going to allow for some cooling, especially western portions there, but we're still going to be a little bit above average. And places like Portland are going to be downright warm again as we go through this week. But as we go through on into, this is Wednesday night now, you see the ridge starting to flatten out here a bit. Still trying to hang on here, a little bit stronger on the GFS, but here comes the polar lobe towards western Alaska here across the Bering Sea. That's what's going to be coming our way, and that's what we're watching for the pattern change. And you can see pretty good model agreement here with zonal flow as we go on into Thursday night. By the time you get to Friday morning, look at the trough digging out on the European on the left and the GFS on the right, showing pretty much the same thing, not quite as amplified as the European has been showing on the left. You'll notice the ridge is way out here now, and so that allows that steering flow, that northwest flow aloft, and that can allow this trough to dig down over the area. And GFS, pretty good agreement there. A little bit further inland and not as strong, though, as you can see. Now we're at the 10-day period, or actually 198 hours out at that point. So we're getting close to 8 days out at this point. But you can see that we are getting closer to this event, so confidence is increasing. Now this is a Canadian. Let's go ahead and take a look at this 12Z run here as well. Watch that ridge kind of kick east. Pretty good model agreement for that. Ridge starts to flatten out a bit here as we go in towards Thursday morning. And as we start to go into Friday morning, you see that trough digging down. The Canadian a little bit further off to the east versus the European. But you can see this ridge is just not all that strong here on the Canadian as we go through next weekend. Going to allow another trough to kind of open up across British Columbia. Some pretty strong zonal flow going on here. Probably bringing precipitation across Pacific Northwest. In this scenario would be smaller amounts the further south you go here. But you can see the trough kind of hanging out to the very end of the Canadian model here, 10 days out. Now this is looking at the North Pole here, Northern Hemisphere, a view of the Earth. And you can see 10,000 feet. This is temperatures here. You see the cold air really positioned over the North Pole here. And you can see the ridge and the warm air aloft over the Pacific Northwest right now. Very weak system, tries to clip by the area, doesn't do much. We maintain that ridge as we go towards Thursday, but then it rapidly comes to a demise here as we just plunge some cold air down the west coast of North America into the Pacific Northwest. And this is the European here, which shows this lasting for a while towards the 25th here. This is the end of the run, 10 days out at this point. But look at this cold air spilling out very close to the Pacific Northwest. There will be some cyclogenesis, which means we'll have some storms forming as we move into the next weekend range here. So it's going to be interesting, and there's a good chance we're going to flip the switch and really start to bring some good precipitation amounts back into the Pacific Northwest. Again, right now looks like better chances north, or greater amounts are going to be north versus south through southern Oregon, but we'll take a look at that right here. Now this is the 12Z European run. This is a very weak frontal system kind of come towards the coastline here. It's going to cool us off a little bit. The ridge is pushing off to the east a bit here. Here we go by Wednesday afternoon. You can see the frontal system rolling down towards us. And by Friday late morning, precipitation starting through western BC, western Washington. Cascades getting a pretty good soaking here. Then it moves down into the Oregon Cascades, eastern portions, Washington, Oregon, getting some rainfall, Rocky Mountains, Idaho, Montana. Nice system. This is just what we need. A little bit of a powerful low kind of showing here. This is 200 hours out, but just kind of an example of the cyclogenesis that could happen here. We can't rule out a windstorm with this pattern change coming up here as we start to go towards October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And then you can kind of see how the European leaves this trough open, just continuing to bring systems down towards the region here. So this is going to be a huge pattern flip, and we drastically need it here. Here's Seattle Tacoma on the most recent European deterministic. You can see that would be the record high tide, and this would be just a crushing of the record high on the 16th, which is 72. We're looking to hit 80 on Sunday here, and then the cool down with that very weak system, but we're still going to be slightly above average, and then the potential for the pattern change as we go through Friday and the weekend here coming up. Now taking a look at Vancouver Island, you can clearly see this. Some nice warm days coming up here, but then the cool down and then the dramatic drop in temperatures as that pattern shift occurs, as we're looking at highs only into the low 50s here, for example, in Vancouver Island. This is Spokane, kind of showing the nice steady temperatures through this week, but then the big drop here as the pattern change looks to come. Portland, it looks like they're going to stay pretty warm for portions of the week, maybe a little bit of a cool down with that very weak system brushing us on Monday and Tuesday, and then the big pattern change cooling down everybody by the time we get towards next weekend. Now, this is looking at total precipitation amounts, multiple run trends. So if you look at this line here, this is 12Z. This would be yesterday afternoon, yesterday morning, the previous day afternoon, the previous day morning. So this gives you a look at each run and what it's calling for. And you can kind of see the trend for the uptick in precipitation amounts over the last few days for Portland, for example. And look at this. By the time the 25th rolls around, we're looking at over 2¼ inches here for Portland, and you can see that the previous two models agreed on the good precipitation amounts starting generally on the night of the 21st, which is Friday. Now taking a look here, Seattle Tacoma, same thing here. You can see the good trend going on here. The model started sniffing this out back on the 12th here, actually the October 11th, the morning. And then you can see the signal here continuing, and looks like some pretty good precipitation amounts. Looks like over 2 inches potentially by the morning of the 25th of October here, if we believe this last European model run. Here's Stevens Pass. Look at all this rainfall, over 3 inches here. You can see a good consistent signal here from the morning of the 14th through this morning here. And this is up towards the Bolt Creek fire here. So that's why Stevens Pass is important here. We need to get that precipitation up there and put that fire out. This is Mount Baker ski area. You can see the trend here catching on to the snow potential here for Mount Baker. And you can see in this model it has 21 inches up towards the 25th. This is the European deterministic run. But just kind of showing you this is a pretty cold system coming down here. So hopefully this snow can build up in the mountains of some of the higher passes here. Now looking at the Siskiyous, just kind of a brushing here. Yesterday's model run had a little bit better snowfall there, but this morning just a little, just under a ½ inch there. But just kind of showing you that it is a cool system coming down there, and there could be some snow all the way down to the Oregon Cascades. Siskiyou Summit, though, showing that there is going to be some meaningful rainfall all the way down towards southern Oregon. And yeah, even Northern California might get in on this action too. We'll have to watch that as we get closer as well. Mount Baker ski area on the GFS. I mean, you want to get a hype machine going here. Look at the GFS on this recent run. 76 inches by Halloween here coming up. But that's, ignore the totals from now and just kind of look at the signal here that we are picking up the signal, like Mount Baker, some of the North Cascades, Central Cascades are starting to pick up some snowfall. And of course, this includes the higher terrain for British Columbia as well, especially the Cascade Range and off east. Now look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. It's been a while since we've seen this kind of a bullseye there across Idaho, western Montana there, including most of Washington and Oregon for the 10-day period. This would be October 23rd to October 29th. The above average signal still exists for the Pacific Northwest as well. And this is the Pacific North American Oscillation. It's fun to watch these change as each model comes in. But you look at the European. I mean, we are just in this nice warm ridging. And look at this just fall off the cliff. This is a great representation of the pattern change that is potentially coming up here at the end of this week, folks. So it's just about time to get excited for this pattern change. It looks like it's on its way. And it is out of fantasy land. So we are starting to build confidence here in this pattern change coming up. This is the European. I believe this is the deterministic. The last was the ensemble. So again, you can kind of see it just falling off the cliff. Big pattern change coming. GFS deterministic says the same thing as well. This is the Canadian ensemble here. It shows similar signal as well, of course. The GFS actually, the ensemble actually showed something different, but the GFS has been having a hard time dealing with this pattern change. So again, this is the Pacific North American Oscillation here. When you see the troughing out over the Aleutians in the Pacific Ocean here north of Hawaii and the ridging over North America, that's what we call PNA, the positive stage of Pacific North American Oscillation, the PNA. When you see this is the negative stage. So when we looked back at these, let's go ahead and take a look. The negative stage, that means troughing over the western portions of the U.S. here. So fingers crossed, pattern change look like it's on the way here, and we're just going to have to watch closely at the individual systems moving through this renewed trough. It's going to be coming across Pacific Northwest here because there is potential for some strong systems to move through this flow and into the region here. We're going to have to watch very closely here. And in fact, let's do one more thing here. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and go to metrograms, and we'll go to... And let's do a fantasy windstorm hunt here really quick here. Let's go to ensemble and let's see if we're lucky enough to have the 12Z in here yet. Nope, it's still the 6Z, but we'll back up to the 0Z and take a look at this. So if we zoom in a little bit further here, you can see some of these ensembles, 56 miles per hour, 54, 52, 67. That's a big windstorm. That's a huge windstorm. That's like a 1 in 15-year event. 20-year event. And you can see some other big windstorms kind of intermixed in here. I mean, look at this, 74 miles per hour. But this, you can see plenty of these ensembles have nothing. But it's just one of my little hobbies here is just kind of looking out and seeing fantasy windstorms. You can see there's some ensembles in here, 40, 40 plus, mid 40s. And then there's some bigger ones as we get towards, what is that, October 23rd and 24th here. So just something to watch at this point. But anyway, that's just something I like to do and just to kind of, get the hype going as we get into the fall season. Weather's fun. You can make it fun. And you can have fun with it just as long as you don't hype it too much when it doesn't look like it's going to happen. You'll be all right. That's kind of my rule there. I like to do fantasy forecasts and trying to show fantasy windstorm potential and whatnot. Just kind of let everybody know that when I say fantasy, that is not a forecast that we are going to count on at this point. But however, this pattern change coming up does look like a good bet at this point. Looks like we're going to get some meaningful precipitation around the area. And if we get one of those 1+ inch, 2-inch rainfalls across some of the Cascades, we are going to really put out some of these fires here. And especially with multiple rounds of precip, we should be able to put out those fires and really get that smoke reduced here. Hopefully before we go into November. And that's something I was actually going to look at too. I was going to look back in the records and to see when the latest CTAC ever reported smoke as an observation. Obscuration there through, I think I've remembered seeing smoke in observation through October before. And of course, we're seeing that this year, but it is unusual to get these fires this late in the year. And this is definitely going to go down as the warmest October probably ever. Although this pattern change is going to make it tough. It's really going to chop into our temperatures as we go. But anyway, So yeah, we'll do this again tomorrow, like always, and we'll watch that system come in here. We'll try to pinpoint some of those systems as they roll through the area as we get more confidence in this pattern change coming up here. So hope you guys are all having a good day. Go Mariners. You know they're down 2-0, but maybe we can sweep the Astros here and move on to the American League Championship Series. But anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Thanks for all my new members signing up. Click like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.